Think of the most barren, lifeless place you can imagine, a vast sea of sand, where the sun scorches the earth and the wind erases every footprint. Now imagine that beneath those shifting dunes, hidden for centuries, lie secrets so extraordinary they rewrite history. Deserts aren't just empty wastelands, they're the world's greatest time capsules, preserving stories of lost kingdoms, forgotten treasures, and mysteries that defy explanation. From the Sahara to the Atacama, these arid landscapes guard clues to civilizations that vanished without a trace, waiting for the right moment to reveal their truths. What if I told you that beneath the very sands we dismiss as lifeless, archaeologists have uncovered palaces buried for millennia, unearthed gold-laden tombs untouched by thieves, and stumbled upon ancient technology so advanced it rivals our own? These deserts have swallowed entire cities, only to spit them back out centuries later, as if teasing us with fragments of a puzzle we're only beginning to solve. Picture this, a single discovery like the lost city of Petra carved into rose-red cliffs, or the Nazca Lines etched so perfectly they can only be seen from the sky, forcing us to question everything we thought we knew about the past. This is a journey into the heart of the unknown, a countdown of 30 spectacular discoveries that prove the desert is far more than meets the eye. We'll wander through the ruins of empires that once ruled these sands, decipher cryptic messages left behind by cultures we barely understand, and marvel at artifacts so bizarre they seem otherworldly. Each revelation is a piece of a grander mystery, hinting at a time when these barren lands thrived with life, innovation, and ambition. So grab your virtual explorer's hat, because by the end of this adventure, you'll never look at a desert the same way again. The sands are about to give up their secrets, one astonishing discovery at a time. Beneath the endless dunes of Oman's Rub al Khali Desert, known as the Empty Quarter, lies a legend whispered for centuries, the lost city of Ubar, often called the Atlantis of the sands. For generations, travelers spoke of a magnificent fortress city that vanished overnight, swallowed by the desert as punishment for its greed. Many dismissed it as pure myth until modern technology revealed the truth. In the 1980s, satellite images captured strange, ancient caravan routes converging on a single point deep in the desert. When archaeologists followed these ghostly trails, they unearthed the remains of a massive fortress, its walls half buried in sand, surrounded by the ruins of towers and wells. This was no ordinary settlement. Ubar thrived as a glittering trade hub, a vital stop for caravans carrying frankincense, the precious resin worth its weight in gold. The city's wealth was legendary, its markets filled with spices, silks, and treasures from across the ancient world, but its prosperity came at a price. Beneath the city, vast limestone caverns held underground water reserves until one day the ground collapsed, swallowing Ubar whole. The desert erased it from memory, leaving only fragments of pottery and the faint outlines of streets to hint at its existence. What makes Ubar so extraordinary isn't just its rediscovery, it's how it bridges myth and reality. The city's sudden disappearance mirrored the cautionary tales told by Bedouin storytellers for centuries. Even more intriguing, the ruins revealed a sophisticated water management system, using underground channels to sustain life in the harshest desert. Ubar's fate serves as a haunting reminder. Even the mightiest civilizations are at the mercy of nature. And somewhere out there, beneath the shifting sands, other lost cities may still be waiting, their stories preserved like fossils in the scorching earth. High above the Nazca Desert in Peru, where the earth stretches into an endless canvas of pale stone, an ancient mystery sprawls across nearly 200 square miles. Etched into the desert floor are hundreds of colossal shapes, spirals, geometric patterns, and figures so enormous they dwarf football fields. Some stretch over 900 feet long, their lines razor straight, carving through the barren landscape with impossible precision. But here's the catch: these designs are invisible from the ground. Walk among them and you'd see nothing but scattered rocks. Only from the sky does the truth reveal itself, an art gallery meant for gods, or something else entirely. These are the Nazca Lines, created between 2000 and 1500 years ago by a culture that left no written records, only these cryptic messages in the sand. How did they achieve such staggering accuracy without flight? Archaeologists believe they used simple tools, wooden stakes and ropes, scaling up small models into massive designs through sheer ingenuity. But the real enigma isn't how they did it, it's why. Some theories suggest the lines formed a giant astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices and constellations. Others argue they were sacred pathways for rituals, guiding worshippers toward ceremonial sites. Then there's the wild card. Could they be signals to extraterrestrials, as some enthusiasts claim? One of the most mesmerizing figures is the hummingbird, its wingspan stretching 150 feet, every curve perfectly proportioned. Nearby, a spider, a monkey, even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut stare up at the sky as if awaiting a response. The scale defies logic. How could creators without aerial views ensure such symmetry? Modern experiments show even slight miscalculations would distort the shapes beyond recognition, yet these have survived centuries of wind and erosion. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the desert itself. The Nazca people dug trenches up to a foot deep, exposing lighter soil beneath the dark surface. The contrast allowed the lines to endure, but it also hints at desperation. This was a culture that manipulated their harsh environment to send a message one we're still deciphering. Were they pleading with the gods for rain, marking territory for spirits, or leaving a beacon for beings beyond our world? The Nazca Lines refused to surrender their secrets, standing as a testament to human curiosity and our endless drive to reach for the inexplicable. In the stark cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea, where the air shimmers with heat and the landscape feels untouched by time, a teenager's stray rock pitched into a shadowy cave in 1947 unraveled one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the 20th century. That chance moment led to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, thousands of parchment and papyrus fragments hidden in clay jars for 2,000 years, preserving some of the oldest known versions of biblical texts. These weren't just random scraps, they were a time capsule of Jewish history, a library carefully stashed away during a period of upheaval, possibly by a reclusive sect called the Essenes, who sought refuge in the desert's solitude. The scrolls include everything from copies of the Hebrew Bible to previously unknown hymns, legal texts, and apocalyptic visions. Imagine holding a manuscript of the Book of Isaiah, nearly identical to the version read in synagogues today, but written 1,000 years earlier than any other surviving copy. The implications sent shockwaves through religious and academic circles. Suddenly, scholars could trace how these sacred texts evolved, spotting subtle changes and reaffirming their astonishing consistency over centuries. Yet the scrolls also contain surprises, like alternate versions of familiar stories and entirely new narratives that didn't make it into the official canon. Decades of painstaking work went into reassembling the fragments, some no larger than a postage stamp. Researchers faced a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces, faded ink, and the delicate challenge of handling parchment so brittle it could crumble at a touch. Modern technology like infrared imaging and DNA analysis has helped, yet debates still rage. Who exactly wrote these texts? Were they the work of a single community or a broader network? And why were they hidden so urgently? Some theories suggest the caves served as a refuge during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE, a desperate attempt to safeguard knowledge from destruction. What makes the Dead Sea Scrolls extraordinary isn't just their age or content, it's the way they bridge faith and history. They offer a tangible connection to the spiritual world of ancient Judea, revealing debates, doubts, and devotions that feel strikingly human. For scholars, they're a Rosetta Stone of biblical studies. For believers, a reaffirmation of tradition's endurance. and for the rest of us, a reminder that even in the harshest deserts, fragments of the past wait patiently for the right moment to speak. The Valley of the Kings had been picked clean, or so archaeologists believed until one stubborn Englishman refused to give up. Howard Carter had spent years searching for a pharaoh everyone else had written off as insignificant, a boy king named Tutankhamun. By 1922, his funding was nearly gone, his team exhausted, and the skeptics louder than ever. Then, on November 4th, a worker's shovel struck stone where there should have been only sand. What followed wasn't just a discovery, it was a time machine. Carter's trembling hands made the first small breach in the tomb's doorway, holding a candle into the darkness. As his eyes adjusted, gold glimmered back at him, lion-headed couches, alabaster vessels, a chariot disassembled as if waiting for its owner's return. When asked if he could see anything, Carter uttered the now legendary words, "Yes, wonderful things," but nothing compared to the moment he first glimpsed the burial chamber's wall, a solid sheet of gold guarding the sarcophagus of a king who died mysteriously at just 18. The treasures defied imagination. A dagger with a blade forged from meteorite iron, its hilt inlaid with celestial patterns. A funeral mask so iconic it's now synonymous with ancient Egypt. Its 24 pounds of gold and lapis lazuli capturing Tutankhamun's youthful face for eternity. Even the mundane became extraordinary: linen gloves still supple, board games with carved ivory pieces, jars of honey that retained its sweetness after 33 centuries. Each object whispered secrets about a civilization's beliefs, amulets to guide the soul through the underworld, miniature ships for celestial travel, even garlands of flowers placed tenderly on the coffin, a father's final gift to his son. Then came the rumors. Lord Carnarvon, Carter's financial backer, died weeks after entering the tomb, his death coinciding with a sudden blackout in Cairo. Newspapers spun tales of a curse, citing hieroglyphs that supposedly warned of death coming on swift wings. Science offered less dramatic explanations: toxic mold in the sealed chamber, perhaps, or coincidence. But the myth persists, fueled by the unsettling fact that several expedition members did die prematurely. Whether curse or circumstance, the drama ensured Tutankhamun's name would eclipse far more powerful pharaohs in the public imagination. What truly endures, though, is how this one tomb rewrote history. Before Tutankhamun, scholars assumed all royal tombs had been looted. His undisturbed burial proved otherwise, offering an intact snapshot of burial rituals and craftsmanship at the height of Egypt's power. Even the king's overlooked reign gained new significance. His golden artifacts bore the erased names of his controversial father, Akhenaten, hinting at a turbulent era of religious revolution. Most poignant, modern CT scans revealed the pharaoh's fractured skull and malaria-ravaged bones, painting a tragic portrait of a fragile boy thrust onto the throne. For all its gold, the real treasure of Tutankhamun's tomb is its humanity. The carefully packed toys, the mourner's footprints still preserved in the chamber's dust, these aren't just relics of a king, but fragments of a life cut short. Carter's discovery didn't just fill museums, it bridged 3,000 years, reminding us that even the mightiest rulers were flesh and blood. And somewhere in the valley's uncharted corners, other tombs may still wait, their stories sealed in darkness until another stubborn explorer refuses to quit. Stretching across the deserts of Jordan, Syria, and Saudi Arabia, vast geometric shapes carved into the earth have baffled archaeologists for decades. From the ground, they look like random lines of stacked stones, but from above, their true form emerges. These are the desert kites, sprawling structures, some dating back 9,000 years, designed with a chilling precision, to funnel entire herds of gazelles or antelope to their doom. The name comes from their appearance, a wide head narrowing into long, tapered walls that resemble kite strings, guiding animals toward a killing pit or cliff edge. What's staggering isn't just the scale. Some kites stretch over 3 miles, but the collaboration they imply. Building these megatraps required entire communities working together, hauling stones across miles of barren land without modern tools. The walls weren't fences, they were psychological barriers. Gazelles, known for their skittishness, would refuse to leap over the low stones, opting instead to run along them, unknowingly herded toward their fate. The kite's placement reveals an intimate knowledge of animal migration, terrain, and even seasonal winds that could mask human scent. Recent LiDAR scans have uncovered thousands of these structures, rewriting assumptions about early hunter-gatherers. These weren't primitive people struggling to survive, they were strategic engineers manipulating their environment on an industrial scale. At sites like Wadi Wisad in Jordan, excavations near kites uncovered butchering tools and bone piles, evidence of mass hunts that could feed villages for months. But the real mystery, some kites show signs of ritual use, with altars and ceremonial artifacts found near the pits. Was this just about survival, or did these hunts hold deeper spiritual meaning? The sophistication doesn't end there. Certain kites align with celestial events, suggesting they doubled as calendars marking equinoxes. Others feature intricate corrals where animals could be temporarily held alive, hinting at early attempts at domestication. And then there's the eerie silence. Why did their use abruptly decline around 4,000 years ago? Climate shifts may have dried up migration routes, or perhaps the rise of agriculture made large-scale hunts unnecessary. What lingers is the unsettling brilliance of these structures. They're a testament to humanity's capacity to adapt and to dominate. The desert kites force us to reconsider how advanced ancient cultures truly were, proving that long before skyscrapers, humans were already reshaping the world on a monumental scale. And with new kites still being discovered by satellite, each one whispers a question. What other secrets lie buried beneath the dunes, waiting for the right angle of light to reveal them? Deep in the sweltering jungles of Honduras, where the rainforest gives way to arid stretches of forgotten land, legends spoke of a white-walled city shimmering like a mirage, a place so ancient, even the local indigenous tribes called it the City of the Monkey God. For centuries, explorers vanished into the dense wilderness of La Mosquitia, lured by tales of towering statues and streets paved with gold. Most returned empty-handed or didn't return at all. Then, in 2012, a team armed with cutting-edge LiDAR technology did the impossible. They peered through the canopy without setting foot on the ground, revealing the skeletal outline of a lost metropolis. The scans showed something extraordinary: plazas, pyramids, and terraces sprawling across miles, all belonging to a civilization that thrived 1,000 years ago, then vanished without a trace. When archaeologists finally hacked their way to the site, they found stone sculptures half buried in the earth, their faces snarling like jaguars. Ceremonial seats carved with intricate geometric patterns hinted at rituals long forgotten. But the real shock came when they unearthed a cache of artifacts untouched by looters. A trove of finely crafted vessels, axe heads forged from greenstone, and a haunting stone effigy of a jaguar, its humanoid body fused with a beast's features. This wasn't just a settlement, it was the heart of a culture sophisticated enough to rival the Maya, yet entirely absent from the history books. What makes this discovery so groundbreaking isn't just the city itself, it's how it redefines our understanding of the region. The artifacts suggest trade networks stretching hundreds of miles, while the architecture reveals an advanced grasp of engineering, with reservoirs designed to collect rainwater and raised fields to prevent flooding. Yet there's no mention of this civilization in surviving records, no carvings boasting of kings or conquests. It's as if the earth swallowed them whole, leaving only whispers. Theories abound. Was this the work of a people fleeing collapse elsewhere, building anew in isolation? Or did they develop independently, their achievements erased by time? Even the LiDAR data raises questions. The scans revealed not one city, but dozens of potential sites nearby, hinting at a forgotten network of settlements. And then there's the darker mystery. Why was the city abandoned? Soil samples show layers of charcoal suggesting fire, while human remains bear marks of blunt force trauma. Was it war, a cataclysm, or something slower like drought creeping in until survival became impossible? The White City, or cities as we now suspect, forces us to confront how much we still don't know. While textbooks map out the rise and fall of familiar empires, entire civilizations may have flourished in the shadows, their stories written in ruins we've yet to uncover. And as the jungle reclaims these sites, archaeologists race against time, knowing each artifact pulled from the dirt is a puzzle piece to a world we're only beginning to imagine. The monkey god city may finally have a name, but its secrets, those are still buried, waiting for the next beam of light to pierce the canopy. Rising from the bone-dry plains of Chile's Atacama Desert, a towering figure stares blankly at the skies stretched across the earth like a giant shadow frozen in stone. The Atacama Giant, at 390 feet tall, isn't just the largest humanoid geoglyph in the world. It's a riddle carved into the hillside, its purpose as elusive as the rain in this, the driest place on Earth. From the ground, it's nearly impossible to comprehend. Viewed from above, the figure's elongated body, rectangular head, and crown-like projections become unmistakable. But who created this colossal desert artwork, and why go to such lengths where no one could properly see it? Dating the glyph is tricky. Estimates range from 900 to 1500 years old, placing its creation somewhere between the decline of the Tiwanaku Empire and the rise of the Inca. The most compelling theory ties it to the Atacama's ancient trade routes. The giant lies along a path once trod by llama caravans carrying precious goods between the Andes and Pacific coast. Could it have served as a territorial marker, a divine protector watching over travelers in this merciless landscape? Others argue its alignment with lunar cycles suggests an astronomical function, a gigantic calendar tracking celestial events for agricultural or ceremonial purposes. Then there are the strange, haunting details. The figure holds what appears to be a bag or weapon in one hand, while parallel lines radiate from its head like stylized rays, features eerily similar to geoglyphs found in Australia and the American Southwest. What makes the Atacama Giant stand out isn't just its size, it's the company it keeps. Surrounding it, hundreds of smaller glyphs dot the desert, swirling labyrinths, depictions of llamas, even what looks like a killer whale mid-leap. Some align with solstice sunrises, others mirror constellations visible only in certain seasons. Together, they form what some researchers call an open-air sacred text, a landscape where every hill and valley held meaning. Yet the giant dominates them all, its sheer scale suggesting it was more than just another waypoint, perhaps a deity or a representation of some long-forgotten shaman who bridged the earthly and spiritual realms. Modern technology has revealed even stranger secrets. Infrared scans show subsurface pathways winding toward the figure, hinting at processional routes where rituals might have taken place. Soil samples indicate patches of fermented corn beer spilled deliberately at the giant's feet, evidence of offerings left centuries ago. And then there's the uncomfortable truth about preservation. In most deserts, wind would have erased such shallow carvings within decades. The Atacama's hyper-arid climate essentially freeze-dried these glyphs for a millennium, as if the desert itself conspired to keep them intact for us to find. Standing before the giant today raises more questions than answers. Why invest such effort in a place where survival itself was a daily struggle? Maybe that's precisely the point. In a land where life hangs by a thread, carving something permanent, something unmistakably human, into the earth might have been the ultimate act of defiance. A declaration that even here, in this brutal emptiness, people not only survived but sought meaning beyond mere existence. The Atacama Giant doesn't just watch the sky, it challenges us to unravel the minds of those who shaped it, to hear the whispers of a culture that turned barren ground into a canvas for the eternal. The Libyan desert's Gilf Kebir Plateau feels like another planet, a desolate maze of sandstone cliffs where the wind howls through canyons like a forgotten language. But venture into one particular cave, and the walls come alive with figures frozen mid-motion, arms arcing gracefully as if suspended in water. These aren't just paintings, they're time travelers. The Cave of Swimmers, discovered by Hungarian explorer Laszlo Almasi in 1933, holds something unimaginable in this sea of sand, vivid depictions of people swimming. At first glance, the art seems playful stick figures with outstretched limbs, some diving, others floating, but the implications are staggering. These paintings, dating back at least 7,000 years, capture a Sahara we'd scarcely recognize. Back then, this was the Green Sahara, a landscape of lakes and grasslands teeming with hippos, giraffes, and fish. The cave wasn't a refuge from the desert. It was a gathering place near water, a canvas for communities who thrived where today nothing survives without a miracle. Almasi himself became obsessed, later immortalized as the fictional protagonist in The English Patient, though the real story is stranger than fiction. What makes these paintings extraordinary isn't just their age, it's their intimacy. Unlike ceremonial art found in other caves, these figures feel spontaneous, almost joyful. Some appear to be playing, others swimming in synchronized rows, suggesting rituals or games lost to time. The pigments red ochre and white clay were mixed with animal fat, their colors still vibrant after millennia. And then there are the mysteries. Beside the swimmers, handprints stencil the walls, some with fingers deliberately shortened. Were these signatures? Prayers or marks of a coming-of-age ritual? Climate science lends chilling context. Sediment cores from nearby dried lake beds reveal the Sahara's transformation wasn't gradual. It happened in pulses, with droughts lasting centuries. As the lakes vanished, so did the cultures that depended on them. The Cave of Swimmers became a time capsule, its art preserving memories of abundance even as the desert claimed everything. Modern visitors report an eerie sensation here. The paintings seem to ripple in torchlight, as if the water never truly left. But the greatest revelation might be what the art doesn't show. There are no battles, no kings, no monuments to power, just people suspended in motion, celebrating the sheer vitality of life. In that, the Cave of Swimmers offers a humbling lesson. Civilizations rise and fall, but joy, whether carved into stone or painted on cave walls, endures. And somewhere beneath the Sahara's shifting sands, other caves may wait, their walls whispering stories of a world that drowned in dust. Carved into the rose-red cliffs of southern Jordan, the ancient city of Petra emerges from the desert like a mirage, a labyrinth of temples, tombs, and theaters all hewn from living rock. But nothing prepares you for Al-Khosneh, the treasury. As you squeeze through the narrow, winding sick, a crack in the earth just wide enough for a single chariot, the gorge suddenly opens to reveal a facade so ornate, so impossibly precise, it feels like a trick of the light. Towering 130 feet high, its columns crowned with acanthus leaves and mythical figures, the treasury seems to grow straight out of the mountain, a monument to human ambition in the harshest of landscapes. This was the work of the Nabateans, a nomadic Arab tribe who transformed Petra into a thriving metropolis 2,000 years ago. Masters of trade and hydraulics, they carved an empire from the desert, controlling caravan routes that carried frankincense, myrrh, and spices from Arabia to the Mediterranean. The treasury, likely a royal tomb or ceremonial site, showcases their genius. Its facade blends Greek, Egyptian, and Assyrian styles, a testament to their cosmopolitan connections. But the real marvel lies in the details. Every urn, statue, and frieze was chiseled downward from the top, a technique requiring such precision that a single misstep could have shattered the entire facade. Then there are the legends. Locals long believed the urn atop the treasury held a pharaoh's treasure, and bullet pockmarks still scar its surface from Bedouin attempts to blast it open. European explorers fueled the myth. Swiss adventurer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, who rediscovered Petra in 1812, disguised himself as an Arab scholar to infiltrate the site, whispering tales of hidden gold to skeptical guides. The truth, the urn is solid stone, but the real treasure is the city itself, a necropolis of over 800 tombs, their facades fading from ochre to pink as the sun moves across the cliffs. Petra's modern fame owes much to Hollywood. When Indiana Jones rode through the sick in The Last Crusade, the world gasped here was a place too spectacular to be real, yet it existed. The film's climax, set inside the treasury, was pure fiction. The interior is a small, empty chamber, but it cemented Petra's reputation as the ultimate archaeological adventure. Beneath the glamour, though, lies a darker puzzle. The Nabateans left almost no written records, and their city's decline remains shrouded in mystery. Was it Rome's conquest that doomed them, or shifting trade routes that starved their economy? Even today, less than 20% of Petra has been excavated. Laser scans reveal potential chambers hidden behind the treasury's walls, while ground-penetrating radar hints at an entire underworld of tunnels and cisterns beneath the city. Standing before Al-Kosneh at dusk, when the stone glows like embers, you realize Petra was never meant to be permanent. The Nabateans carved knowing wind and rain would eventually reclaim their work. Yet here it stands, a testament to those who looked at a cliff and saw a canvas, who turned a desert crossroads into a wonder for the ages. The treasury's greatest secret isn't hidden treasure, but the enduring human impulse to create beauty where none should exist. Scattered across Egypt's Great Sand Sea, stretching over hundreds of square miles of blistering desert, lies a mystery that glitters under the relentless sun. Shards of golden green glass, some as small as pebbles, others weighing up to 50 pounds. This is Libyan desert glass, a substance so pure it's almost translucent, yet so durable it survived 26 million years of scorching winds and shifting dunes. Hold a piece up to the light, and it seems to glow from within, its surface pocked with tiny bubbles frozen in time. But how did this otherworldly material form in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth? The answer might rewrite our understanding of ancient cataclysms and human ingenuity. The prevailing theory points to the sky. Around 26 million years ago, a meteorite or comet may have exploded just above the desert, unleashing temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. Sand instantly vaporized, then cooled so rapidly it solidified into glass mid-air, raining down in a surreal storm. Evidence: the glass contains traces of iridium and other elements rare on Earth but common in space rocks. Yet skeptics argue the impact crater has never been found until recently. Satellite surveys revealed a potential candidate: the Kibera crater, a massive depression on the Egypt-Libya border, eroded but still visible. If confirmed, it would be one of the largest impact sites on the planet. Then there's the wildcard theory. Could this glass be evidence of an ancient, advanced civilization wielding atomic power? Fringe researchers point to texts like the Mahabharata, an Indian epic describing a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, leaving behind a brilliant light like 10,000 suns and turning sand into glass. While mainstream science dismisses this as fantasy, it's undeniable that someone in antiquity recognized the glass's value. Among Tutankhamun's treasures was a pectoral scarab carved from Libyan desert glass, its golden hue mimicking the sun god Ra's divine light. The craftsmanship is staggering. Ancient artisans somehow shaped this brittle material without modern tools, suggesting they knew its properties intimately. What truly fascinates isn't just the glass's origin, but its journey. Nomads of the Gilf Kebir used shards as cutting tools millennia before Tutankhamun's reign. Early 20th century explorers, desperate for water, sometimes mistook the glass's reflections for mirage pools, and today, scientists study it to understand extreme cosmic events, while jewelers prize its unearthly beauty. The desert glass bridges epochs, a remnant of primordial violence, shaped by human hands, now resting in museum cases. Standing in the great sand sea at twilight, when the glass fragments catch the fading light like scattered embers, you're left with a humbling thought. This landscape has witnessed things beyond our imagination. Whether born from a meteor's fury or some lost technology, the Libyan desert glass whispers that the past is far stranger than we dare to believe. And somewhere out there, buried beneath the dunes, more secrets wait patient, glittering, ready to rewrite history once again. Perched on a wind-swept hill in southeastern Turkey, where the landscape blurs between arid steppe and desert, lies a site that shattered everything we thought we knew about human history. Göbekli Tepe isn't just old, it's impossibly ancient. Built around 12,000 years ago, this sprawling complex of circular enclosures and towering limestone pillars predates Stonehenge by 6 millennia, the Egyptian pyramids by 7. But what truly stuns archaeologists isn't just its age, it's the exquisite, almost surreal carvings that cover every surface, turning this sacred space into a menagerie of stone. Lions prowl, scorpions rear, vultures spread their wings, all rendered with a sophistication that defies the era's supposed simplicity. The pillars themselves are colossal, some weighing over 16 tons, hauled and erected by hunter-gatherers who, according to conventional wisdom, shouldn't have had the means or the motive for such monumental labor. Each T-shaped pillar resembles a stylized human figure, arms etched in relief, belts carved with geometric precision, but the animals steal the show. Foxes, boars, and cranes intertwine in a riot of symbolism, their forms so fluid and detailed they seem to breathe. One pillar bears a grinning predator, possibly a bear, its mouth gaping as if frozen mid-roar. Another shows a flock of birds in flight, their wings overlapping like a prehistoric frieze. These aren't crude sketches, they're masterpieces, demanding years of labor from people who supposedly spent every waking moment hunting and foraging. What does it all mean? Göbekli Tepe's carvings hint at a spiritual revolution. Unlike later temples built for settled agricultural societies, this site emerged before farming, before cities, even before pottery. The animals likely represent a complex cosmology, guardian spirits, clan totems, or deities worshipped by nomadic bands who gathered here seasonally. Some researchers speculate the vultures hold clues to mortuary rituals, their presence echoing later cultures that used sky burial. Others point to the site's alignment with celestial events, suggesting the carvings served as a primitive star map. The implications are earth-shaking. For decades, we assumed religion and complex art arose after humans settled down, a byproduct of surplus food and leisure time. Göbekli Tepe flips that narrative on its head. Here, it seems, the drive to create, to seek meaning beyond survival compelled people to band together, hauling stones across miles with nothing but ropes and determination. The temple might even have been the spark that ignited agriculture, as gatherings here required food surpluses, prompting experiments with cultivated grains found nearby. Yet mysteries linger. Why was Göbekli Tepe deliberately buried around 8,000 years ago, its pillars carefully interred under tons of soil? Was it an act of reverence or a ritual killing of sacred space? And most haunting of all, what else lies undiscovered beneath Turkey's sun-baked hills? Only a fraction of the site has been excavated, and already it's rewritten history. The carvings of Göbekli Tepe don't just adorn a temple, they're a manifesto proving that humanity's oldest monuments weren't raised to kings or conquests, but to the wild, untamed world that once surrounded us and the awe it inspired in our collective soul. Buried beneath the shifting sands of China's Taklamakan Desert lies a riddle that defies history's boundaries, the mummies of the Tarim Basin. These aren't just any preserved remains, they're shockingly lifelike, with high cheekbones, long noses, and flaxen hair, their European features frozen in time. Wrapped in finely woven woolens dyed vibrant reds and blues, they seem to have stepped straight out of Bronze Age Europe. Yet they were laid to rest over 3,000 years ago in what's now Western China. How did these people, so visibly out of place, end up in one of Asia's most inhospitable deserts? The discovery began in the early 20th century when explorers stumbled upon cemeteries scattered along the ancient Silk Road. The arid climate and salty soil acted as natural preservatives, leaving the mummies so intact that their tattoos remained visible, their eyelashes still fluttered in the dry wind. One of the most striking, the Beauty of Lulan, wore a felt hat and leather boots, her hands resting gently on her chest as if she'd simply fallen asleep. Nearby, a man dubbed the Chechen Man lay with a 10-foot-long pole beside him, his face eerily serene beneath a thick reddish-brown beard. These weren't isolated cases. Hundreds of similar mummies have since been unearthed, their DNA confirming ancestry linked to the Black Sea region, thousands of miles to the west. Their belongings deepen the intrigue. Some were buried with wheels, suggesting ties to the same culture that invented horse-drawn chariots. Others wore twill fabrics identical to those found in Celtic burials, woven with techniques thought unknown in Asia at the time. Then there's the food traces of cheese, wheat, and even ephedra, a stimulant later used in Central Asian rituals. Every artifact whispers of a people who brought their world with them, adapting yet never fully blending into their new home. Theories about their origins collide like desert winds. Some scholars argue they were Tucharians, a nomadic Indo-European group mentioned in later Chinese texts as towering, red-haired foreigners. Others propose they were part of a vast migration spurred by climate change, fleeing drought-stricken steppes for the Tarim's oasis rivers. But the most tantalizing clue lies in their language. Fragments of Tucharian script found nearby share roots with ancient Celtic and Germanic tongues, a linguistic thread stretching across continents. What haunts researchers isn't just their presence, but their disappearance. By the time the Silk Road flourished, these people had vanished, their genes diluted by waves of newcomers. Did they assimilate, were they pushed out, or did the desert, ever hungry, finally reclaim them? The mummies of the Tarim Basin are more than curiosities. They're ghostly reminders that ancient worlds were far more interconnected than we ever imagined, and that history's map still holds blank spaces waiting to be filled. From the timeless riddles of ancient civilizations, we leap into the modern era where art and desert collide in a breathtaking whisper of human imagination. Near Egypt's Red Sea coast, where the eastern desert meets the infinite horizon, a sprawling masterpiece known as Desert Breath stretches across 100,000 square meters of barren earth. Created in 1997 by artist Dani Stratu and her team, this colossal land art installation isn't just meant to be seen, it's designed to feel like a conversation with the cosmos. Two interlocking spirals, one positive, one negative, radiate outward from a central depression, their precise conical mounds and furrows mirroring each other in a dance of geometry and emptiness. At ground level, the effect is hypnotic. Walk along the spiraling paths and the mounds rise like waves frozen mid-break, some nearly 6 feet tall, while the dug-out trenches create shadows that shift with the sun's arc. But from above, the true genius reveals itself, a perfect double spiral, its arms unfurling like a galaxy pinned to the earth. The central pool, once filled with water, reflected the sky, creating a fleeting mirage of depth in this parched landscape. Every element was calculated: the angle of the cones, the spacing of the grooves, to echo the desert's own natural rhythms, as if the land itself had sighed this pattern into being. Yet Desert Breath was never meant to last. Unlike the pyramids or Petra, built to defy time, this installation embraces impermanence. The artists chose the desert as both canvas and collaborator, knowing the wind would slowly reshape their work grain by grain. Over decades, the spirals have blurred, the central pool dried to dust, and the once crisp edges softened into ghostly impressions. It's a living metaphor, infinity rendered in sand, a reminder that even our grandest gestures are fleeting against the desert's patient hunger. What lingers isn't just the art's physical form, but the questions it whispers. Why here in this empty vastness? Perhaps because the desert, with its silence and scale, forces us to confront our own smallness. Or maybe because the spiral, a shape found in seashells, galaxies, and ancient petroglyphs, transcends language, speaking directly to some primal part of us that still wonders at the stars. Desert breath doesn't just occupy space, it invites it, letting the emptiness between its curves become part of the composition. Now, as the sands reclaim it, the installation enters its final act. What began as a meditation on infinity becomes a lesson in surrender, proof that beauty isn't diminished by its fragility, but deepened by it. Future travelers might find only faint undulations in the earth, a rumor of what once was. But for those who witnessed it, desert breath remains a fleeting heartbeat in the desert's long exhale, a testament to the human urge to leave marks where none should last. The desert has swallowed many secrets, but few are as haunting as the fate of 50,000 Persian warriors who vanished without a trace over 2,500 years ago. In 524 BCE, the mighty king Cambyses II, ruler of Persia's vast empire, sent his army into Egypt's western desert to crush a rebellion at the Oracle of Ammon. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, the soldiers marched into a sandstorm so fierce it buried them alive, every last man lost to the dunes, their disappearance becoming one of history's most enduring mysteries. For centuries, scholars debated whether the story was fact or legend until the desert began coughing up clues. In the early 21st century, two Italian archaeologists, Angelo and Alfredo Castiglione, stumbled upon something chilling while surveying a remote stretch of desert near the oasis of Siwa. Scattered across a windswept plateau lay fragments of human bones, corroded bronze weapons, and pottery shards bearing Achaemenid designs, the unmistakable remnants of an ancient army. Even more telling, the artifacts clustered near a natural rock formation resembling a fortress, matching Herodotus' description of where the Persians may have sought shelter before the storm hit. Then came the eerie details, a silver armlet identical to those worn by Persian officers, a dagger with its blade still sharp, even a horse's bit, all dating to Cambyses' era. But the real smoking gun lay beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar revealed disturbances in the sediment patterns suggesting mass burials. The team hypothesized that the soldiers, disoriented by the storm, became trapped in a narrow valley where shifting dunes collapsed around them. Some bones showed signs of violent trauma, hinting at a desperate final struggle. Yet the desert, ever the careful curator, preserved fragments of their story. A bronze arrowhead here, a corroded helmet crest there, each artifact a whisper from the grave. Not everyone is convinced, of course. Skeptics argue the finds could belong to later conflicts or unlucky traders. But the sheer volume of Persian military gear in such a remote location is hard to dismiss. If this is indeed Cambyses' lost legion, it paints a grim picture. An entire force erased in hours, their bones slowly scattered by centuries of wind. The desert doesn't give up its dead easily, but when it does, the truth is often stranger than the myths. And somewhere out there, beneath the endless sands, more fragments of this ancient tragedy may still lie hidden, waiting for the next gust of wind to reveal them. Deep in the crimson sands of Jordan's Wadi Rum, where towering cliffs glow like embers at sunset, the rocks themselves tell stories, thousands of them. Carved into the valley's sheer walls, a sprawling gallery of petroglyphs and inscriptions stretches across millennia, left by the hands of Nabatean traders, Thamudic nomads, and early Arabic cultures. This isn't just graffiti, it's a living archive, a testament to the countless souls who passed through this otherworldly landscape, each leaving their mark like a signature in stone. From hunting scenes etched by prehistoric tribes to elaborate Nabatean dedications to their gods, these carvings form a puzzle that's as much about language as it is about human connection. Take one step into Wadi Rum's labyrinth of canyons, and you'll spot them figures of ibex mid-leap, their delicate legs frozen in motion, or camels lumbering across the rock face in silent caravans. Some date back over 12,000 years, offering glimpses of a time when this desert was greener, teeming with wildlife, but the real treasures are the inscriptions. The Nabateans, masters of trade and the builders of Petra, left behind messages in their elegant script, often invoking their deities like Dashara, the mountain god. Then there's the Thamudic writing, a precursor to Arabic, its angular letters whispering of a culture that thrived here long before Islam's rise. One inscription carved beside a natural spring reads simply, "May water never fail." A plea as timeless as the desert itself. What makes these carvings extraordinary isn't just their age, it's their intimacy. Unlike grand monuments, these were meant for fellow travelers, not kings. A Thamudic tribesman might scratch a warning about a dry well. A Nabatean merchant might pray for safe passage. Some inscriptions even feature early Arabic poetry, capturing snippets of longing or triumph in a few spare lines. Linguists pore over them like detectives, tracing how languages evolved across generations. That curve of a letter in one inscription might be the missing link between ancient scripts and the Arabic we know today. But Wadi Rum's rocks guard their secrets stubbornly. Wind and time have blurred some carvings into ghosts, while others remain crisp as the day they were made. Modern technology helps 3D imaging reveals faded inscriptions invisible to the naked eye, while AI compares scripts across regions to decode forgotten dialects. Yet some mysteries resist explanation. Why do certain symbols reappear across centuries, as if carrying a message meant only for initiates? And why, among the ibex and camels, do occasional surreal figures appear humanoids with elongated heads or what look like celestial maps? Standing before these stones, you realize Wadi Rum isn't just a valley, it's a conversation. Every stroke of a chisel was a voice saying, "I was here." The hunter who drew his prey, the merchant who penned his prayer, the poet who etched his verse, all reaching across time, asking us to listen. The desert may erase footprints, but these marks endure, proving that even in the harshest lands, humans will always find a way to say, "Remember me." And as the last light paints the cliffs gold, you half expect the rocks to whisper back. Rising from the barren expanse of Mauritania's Sahara Desert, a colossal formation stares up at the sky like a fossilized whirlpool nearly 30 miles wide, its concentric rings so perfectly symmetrical they seem sculpted by giants. This is the Richat Structure, nicknamed the Eye of the Sahara, one of Earth's most perplexing geological wonders. From the ground, its scale defies comprehension. From space, it resembles a target etched into the planet's skin. For decades, scientists dismissed it as a quirky volcanic dome weathered by time until a fringe theory emerged, daring to ask, what if this isn't just a geological accident? What if these crumbling rings are all that's left of Atlantis? The comparison isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Plato's ancient dialogues describe Atlantis as a city of concentric circles, alternating between water and land, rich in precious metals and lying beyond the Pillars of Hercules, traditionally thought to mean the Strait of Gibraltar. The Richat Structure matches uncannily. Its rings mirror Plato's description. Its location in northwest Africa aligns with ancient Egyptian accounts of distant western lands, and the surrounding desert was once a lush savanna, as core samples confirm. Even more intriguing, the area teems with salt flats, remnants of an ancient inland sea, and scattered artifacts suggest human activity here over 12,000 years ago, around the time Atlantis allegedly sank. Geologists counter that the eye is purely natural, a masterpiece of differential erosion. The rings, they argue, reveal layers of resistant quartzite and softer sedimentary rock, sculpted over millions of years by wind and water. Satellite imagery shows no signs of human construction, just the patient artistry of elemental forces, yet the mystery deepens when you walk the site. Strewn across the outer rings lie fragments of volcanic glass and oddly shaped stones that, to the untrained eye, resemble tools or building blocks. Some researchers point to these as evidence of a lost civilization, while others see only the whims of erosion playing tricks. The debate hinges on perspective. Those who champion the Atlantis theory highlight the Richat's unique position near gold and copper deposits, matching Plato's mention of the city's mineral wealth. They note the structure's alignment with solstice sunrises, suggesting ceremonial significance. Skeptics, however, remind us that nature often mimics human designs, from hexagonal basalt columns that look like pavements to wind-carved arches resembling cathedral doors. The truth may lie in between. Could the Richat have inspired Atlantean legends without being the city itself? Ancient travelers might have encountered this surreal landmark, weaving its likeness into tales passed down to Plato centuries later. What's undeniable is the Richat's power to captivate. Whether a natural wonder or a drowned kingdom's skeleton, it forces us to confront how little we truly know about our planet's past. As the desert winds slowly grind its stones to dust, the eye of the Sahara remains a riddle written in rock, one that challenges us to question where geology ends and history begins. And if Atlantis is ever found, perhaps its greatest clue has been hiding in plain sight all along, staring silently at the sky from the heart of the desert. Rising like ghostly sentinels from the endless sea of Niger's Tenere Desert, the Jodo fortresses stand as crumbling witnesses to an empire's lost glory. These towering mud brick structures, their edges softened by centuries of wind, were once the heartbeat of the Kanuri people, a powerful kingdom that ruled this scorching crossroads of the Sahara over 1,000 years ago. Walking through their labyrinthine corridors today, you can almost hear the echoes of camel caravans laden with gold, salt, and ivory, their traders seeking shelter within these walls from the desert's merciless sun. What makes these fortresses extraordinary isn't just their survival in one of Earth's harshest environments, it's the ingenuity behind their design. The Kanuri built them with a secret weapon, salt. By mixing it into the clay, they created bricks resistant to erosion, a trick learned through generations of desert living. The walls, some still standing 3 stories high, are honeycombed with hidden passages and air vents, channeling even the faintest breeze to cool interior courtyards. Narrow arrow slits face outward like watchful eyes, designed not just for defense, but to monitor the horizon for approaching trade convoys or rival armies. Jodo's golden age came between the 12th and 16th centuries, when it served as a vital hub on trans-Saharan routes linking Timbuktu to Cairo and Tripoli. Gold from West Africa, silks from the Mediterranean, and even rare spices from as far as India passed through its gates. The Kanuri grew wealthy taxing these caravans, their influence stretching across the desert. Yet the fortresses weren't just economic engines, they were cultural melting pots. Arabic manuscripts found in the ruins speak of scholars debating under the stars, while fragments of Chinese porcelain hint at connections stretching farther than historians once imagined. Then, around the 17th century, the fortresses were abandoned, not sacked, not burned, simply walked away from, as if their occupants vanished overnight. The theories are as shifting as the desert sands. Some blame climate change. Tree rings from the region show a prolonged drought around that time, withering oasis wells. Others point to the collapse of the salt trade as European ships began sailing around Africa, rendering camel caravans obsolete. Then there are the local Tuareg legends, which whisper of a curse, a vengeful spirit said to stalk the empty halls, driving away anyone who lingers too long. Modern archaeologists face a race against time. Each year, wind and rare but violent rains eat away at the fragile bricks, yet with every layer that crumbles, new clues emerge. Recently, satellite imaging revealed an extensive underground network beneath the fortresses, possibly granaries, escape tunnels, or even hidden treasure chambers. And in the surrounding sands, the bones of camels and donkeys mark the graves of animals that once carried empires on their backs. The Jodo fortresses stand as a haunting reminder. Even the mightiest strongholds are no match for time and shifting fortunes. But in their silence, they ask us to reconsider the Sahara not as a wasteland but as a highway of civilizations. A place where kingdoms rose, traded, dreamed, and then faded like mirages on the horizon. And perhaps somewhere beneath those windswept walls, the Kanuri's stories still wait patiently for the right hand to uncover them. Carved into a weathered slab of granite on the banks of the Nile, the famine stela tells a story of desperation and divine intervention. At first glance, it's just another ancient inscription among Egypt's countless monuments, but this one holds a chilling prophecy. The hieroglyphs recount 7 years of unrelenting drought during the reign of Pharaoh Djoser, over 4,600 years ago. Crops withered, the river failed to rise, and hunger gripped the land so fiercely that people turned to eating their own children. Yet the stela isn't merely a record of suffering. It's a plea carved in stone, offering a startling glimpse into how civilizations grappled with forces beyond their control. The text describes Djoser's frantic appeal to the god Khnum, ruler of the Nile's floods, who finally responds in a dream. The solution: restore the neglected temples at Elephantine, the river's mythical source. What's fascinating isn't just the supernatural twist, but the hard science backing the tale. Modern climatologists drilling sediment cores from the Nile Delta found evidence of catastrophic droughts around 2600 BCE, matching Djoser's era. Layers of sand in what should be fertile silt tell a story of faltering floods, while pollen samples reveal sudden shifts from grain to desert shrubs. The famine stela, once dismissed as myth, now reads like an early climate report written not in data but in human terror. But here's where it gets eerie. The stela itself isn't from Djoser's time. It was carved 2,000 years later during the Ptolemaic period. Why would a civilization a millennium and a half removed resurrect this trauma? Some scholars argue it was political theater, a way to legitimize Ptolemaic rulers as heirs to Egypt's ancient wisdom. Others see it as a timeless warning, a reminder that even the mightiest kingdoms hang by a thread dependent on the Nile's whim. The stela's placement at Aswan, where the river's first cataract churns, feels deliberate, a monument to vulnerability erected at the very spot where the waters begin their life-giving journey. Today, the famine stela whispers across the ages with renewed urgency. As modern Egypt faces rising temperatures and dwindling water shares from the Nile's contested dams, the past's echoes grow louder. The stela's hieroglyphs don't just describe a famine, they capture the moment a civilization looked into the abyss and realized its survival depended on forces it could neither command nor fully understand. And in that realization, etched into granite for eternity, lies a lesson we're only beginning to grasp. High in the windswept desert plateaus of Kyrgyzstan's Tian Shan Mountains, a silent army of stone stands guard over a forgotten chapter of history. Scattered across the arid valleys like sentinels, hundreds of weathered crosses, some as tall as a person, others small enough to cradle in your palm, rise from the earth in patterns that seem almost deliberate. At first glance, they might be mistaken for natural rock formations, but look closer and their true purpose emerges. Each one is meticulously carved, their arms symmetrically extended, their surfaces smoothed by centuries of wind and weather. These are the desert crosses of Kyrgyzstan, haunting relics of a time when Christianity found an unlikely home along the Silk Road's most treacherous paths. The crosses date back to the medieval era, between the 6th and 14th centuries, when the Nestorian Church, a branch of Christianity deemed heretical by the Roman Empire, spread eastward along Silk Road trade routes. Nestorian traders and missionaries carried their faith deep into Central Asia, establishing communities in places where few imagined Christianity could take root. These stone markers, often clustered near ancient caravan stops, likely served as graves or memorials for those who died far from their homeland. Imagine the scene, a caravan halting in this desolate landscape, burying a fallen companion beneath a simple cross, then chiseling another into nearby stone as both tribute and trail marker for those who would follow. What's staggering isn't just their existence, it's their resilience. Nestorian Christianity vanished from this region after the 14th century, eclipsed by Islam and Buddhism, yet these crosses endured. Some sit near the ruins of long-abandoned settlements, their presence hinting at entire communities that once thrived here. Others stand alone in remote valleys, their isolation only deepening the mystery. Who were the people that carved them? Were they merchants who perished on their journeys, or monks who sought solitude in the desert's silence? The crosses offer no names, no dates, just quiet defiance against time. Modern scholars piece together clues from unlikely places. A handful of crosses bear faint Syriac inscriptions, the liturgical language of the Nestorian Church, while others feature carvings of camels or sun discs, blending Christian symbolism with local motifs. Nearby caves have yielded fragments of manuscripts and crosses carved into walls, suggesting Hermits might have used these sites for worship. Then there's the eerie overlap with local folklore. Kyrgyz herders long spoke of stone people who guarded the mountains, a possible echo of these forgotten believers. The real enigma lies in the crosses' distribution. They're not randomly placed, many align with old trade routes, marking passes where caravans would have rested. Some clusters form rough circles, perhaps indicating burial grounds, while others stand in pairs or rows like silent processions. Researchers using satellite imagery have identified patterns invisible from the ground, suggesting the crosses might have served as a navigational aid, a spiritual compass for travelers navigating the Tian Shan's labyrinthine valleys. Standing before these stones today, you're struck by their quiet power. They don't tower like cathedrals or gleam with gold. They're humble, worn, almost shy in their persistence. Yet they tell a story of astonishing cultural exchange, of a faith that crossed continents, adapting to landscapes and languages far from its birthplace. In their chiseled edges, we glimpse the Silk Road's true cargo, not just silks and spices, but ideas, beliefs, and the unshakable human need to mark our passing. The desert may have reclaimed the names of those who carved them, but the crosses remain, whispering of a time when this barren land was a highway of the soul. Across the world's driest landscapes, a mysterious dark sheen clings to sun-baked rocks like a second skin, thin, lustrous, and almost metallic in its glow. Scientists call it desert varnish, and it's one of nature's most enigmatic artworks. This glassy coating, rich in manganese and iron, can take thousands of years to form, transforming ordinary boulders into gleaming obsidian mirrors under the desert sun. But how does a substance this smooth and uniform appear in places where life seems impossible? The answer might rewrite our understanding of survival at the edge of existence. For decades, researchers thought simple chemistry was to blame minerals in rainwater slowly seeping into rocks, then oxidizing in the heat. But the more we study it, the less that theory holds. Varnish forms fastest in hyper-arid regions where rain rarely falls, and its intricate layers resemble microbial mats found in caves. That's led to a radical alternative. Tiny, tenacious life forms might be the true artists. Colonies of bacteria, possibly feeding on dust particles, could be depositing manganese like microscopic masons, building the varnish grain by grain over millennia. Imagine microorganisms so resilient they thrive where even cacti wither, turning barren rock into a living canvas. Yet indigenous cultures have long offered a different wisdom. The Navajo speak of varnish as tesh, the hardened breath of the earth itself, marking sites where spirits dwell. In Australia's outback, Aboriginal elders read the patterns as ancestral messages. Some varnished rocks align with songlines, sacred paths across the land. The Walberi people of Central Australia even used varnish as pigment for rock art, grinding its metallic dust into paint to tell creation stories. Who's to say science and tradition can't both hold pieces of the truth? The real magic lies in the varnish's secrets. NASA studies it as an analog for Mars, where similar coatings hint at the red planet's wetter past. Archaeologists decode its layers like tree rings, dating ancient petroglyphs carved through the dark veneer. And in Chile's Atacama, the driest place on Earth, varnish grows so slowly that a thumbnail's width might represent 10,000 years of patient accumulation. Standing before a varnished boulder at dusk when the last light sets its surface ablaze, you're left with a humbling thought. This isn't just geology. It's a collaboration between time, elements, and perhaps life itself, a testament to the quiet, stubborn genius of our planet. Whether painted by microbes or spirits, desert varnish remains nature's most patient masterpiece, proving even the harshest landscapes hold poetry in their bones. Hidden deep in the labyrinthine caves of Mali's Sahara, where temperatures soar and sandstorms erase all traces of passage, lies a treasure more precious than gold: the Timbuktu Manuscripts. These aren't just books, they're the beating heart of a golden age, when the desert city of Timbuktu rivaled Cairo and Baghdad as a beacon of Islamic scholarship. Written between the 13th and 17th centuries, their pages glow with intricate calligraphy in Arabic and African languages, their margins filled with annotations debating everything from celestial movements to the properties of medicinal herbs. But what makes these manuscripts extraordinary isn't just their wisdom, it's the daring cloak and dagger rescue that saved them from annihilation in the 21st century. Picture this: in 2012, as militant groups advanced on Timbuktu, bent on destroying anything they deemed un-Islamic, a team of librarians and scholars staged a secret operation worthy of a spy novel. Under cover of night, they smuggled over 300,000 manuscripts out of the city's great libraries, packing them into metal trunks, rice sacks, even vegetable crates. Donkeys carried the precious cargo down back streets to safe houses, while some texts traveled by boat along the Niger River, hidden under fishing nets. The most perilous journey, a 600-mile trek across the desert to Bamako, with smugglers bribing militants at checkpoints, whispering that the crates held only personal belongings. By the time the radicals stormed Timbuktu's libraries, torching what they believed were its entire collections, the real treasures were already safe in the desert's embrace, tucked away in caves known only to trusted guardians. The manuscripts they saved are a revelation. Far from the stereotype of medieval Africa as a land of oral traditions, these texts reveal a flourishing written culture deeply engaged with the wider world. One 16th century treatise on astronomy accurately calculates the distance between Earth and the Moon, while another sketches detailed diagrams of surgical instruments used in advanced medical procedures. There are lyrical poems praising Mali's rulers, legal texts debating women's rights in inheritance cases, and even recipes for ink made from crushed acacia pods and gum arabic. The diversity is staggering. Philosophy rubs shoulders with tax codes, and cosmological theories share pages with instructions for treating snake bites with local plants. Preserving these fragile pages is a race against time. Many manuscripts bear the scars of their flight, sand embedded in the fibers, moisture warping the bindings. In Bamako, conservators work in humidity-controlled rooms, gently cleaning each page with specialized erasers and repairing torn edges with Japanese kozo paper. But the real innovation comes from local craftsmen who have revived ancient bookbinding techniques, stitching pages with camel leather thread and crafting protective cases from antelope hide. Meanwhile, digitization projects are creating virtual copies, ensuring that even if the originals crumble, their knowledge won't be lost again. The Timbuktu manuscripts force us to rethink history's map. Here was a center of learning where African, Arab, and Mediterranean ideas fused under the desert sun, where scholars debated the ethics of trade and the nature of the stars centuries before European universities took root. That legacy isn't just preserved in ink and parchment, it lives in the quiet courage of those who risked everything to protect it. As one librarian who helped smuggle the texts put it, they wanted to burn our memory. But memory doesn't burn, and now, sheltered in the very caves that once hid them, these manuscripts whisper a defiant truth. Knowledge, like the desert wind, cannot be contained. Arizona's desert holds a scar so perfect, so violently beautiful, it looks like a snapshot of cosmic rage frozen in time. The Meteor Crater, a gaping bowl nearly a mile wide and over 500 feet deep, is Earth's best preserved witness to the raw power of the universe. 50,000 years ago, a nickel-iron meteorite the size of a small house screamed through the atmosphere at 40,000 miles per hour faster than a rifle bullet, and slammed into the Colorado Plateau with the force of 10 million tons of TNT. In less than 10 seconds, the impact vaporized everything in its path, blasting out 240 million tons of limestone and sandstone, flipping entire rock layers upside down like pages in a book. The shockwave flattened forests for miles, and the heat fused desert sand into glass-greenish shards still scattered across the crater's rim today. When European settlers first stumbled upon this monstrous pit in the late 1800s, they dismissed it as a volcanic oddity. Even geologists struggled to accept that something from space could carve such a flawless wound into the earth. It took a brilliant mining engineer named Daniel Barringer to champion the meteorite theory, risking his fortune and reputation to prove it. He spent decades drilling into the crater's floor, convinced a colossal iron mass lay buried beneath. He was wrong about the meteorite's size. It mostly vaporized on impact, but right about the cosmic culprit. His stubborn pursuit revolutionized our understanding of planetary impacts, turning the crater into ground zero for the fledgling science of astrogeology. By the mid-20th century, the crater's otherworldly terrain caught NASA attention. During the Apollo program, astronauts trained here to simulate lunar landscapes, their boots crunching over shattered rock that mirrored the moon's surface. They practiced collecting samples, reading geologic layers, and navigating barren expanses, skills that would prove vital when they stepped onto actual lunar soil. Even today, the crater serves as a classroom for Mars mission prep, its rubble fields and mineral deposits offering the closest earthly analog to the red planet's harsh environment. Standing on the rim, the scale is almost too much to grasp. The Statue of Liberty could fit inside with room to spare, and 20 football fields could line up across its base. But the crater's real power lies in its silence. There's no blast echoing across the millennia, no tremor left to feel, just the wind whistling through a hole punched into the planet by a random visitor from the void. It's a reminder that our world exists in a cosmic shooting gallery, and next time we might not be so lucky. Yet the crater also whispers of resilience. Life crept back, first lichens, then junipers, and now tourists snapping photos where catastrophe once reigned. The universe threw its worst at this patch of desert, and Earth wore it like a badge of honor. Scattered across Namibia's Namib Desert, like polka dots on an endless canvas of sand, lie thousands of mysterious bare patches, perfect circles etched into the earth as if by some invisible hand. These are the fairy circles, nature's cryptic artwork spanning hundreds of miles, each one a stark ring of barren soil surrounded by a fringe of golden grass. Some are as small as dinner plates, others stretch over 30 feet wide, forming a surreal pattern that defies easy explanation. For centuries, local Himba people whispered that these circles were the footprints of gods or dragons, their breath scorching the earth. Scientists, however, have waged a decades-long debate over their origins, with theories ranging from industrious termites to underground gases, and even eerie parallels to Martian landscapes. One camp argues the circles are the work of sand termites, tiny engineers tunneling beneath the surface, nibbling at plant roots to create water traps in the parched soil. The idea goes like this: as termites clear vegetation, the bare patch becomes a reservoir, absorbing scarce rainfall and storing it deeper underground, sustaining the colony and inadvertently nurturing the surrounding grass. Evidence: researchers have found termite activity in nearly every circle sampled, their intricate networks mirroring the ring's borders. Yet skeptics point out that termites aren't always present, and similar circles appear in Australia where termite species differ. Then there's the plant competition theory. In this version, the desert's brutal conditions force grasses to wage underground warfare for water. The strongest plants monopolize resources, creating dead zones around their roots where weaker rivals can't survive. Over time, this natural sorting produces evenly spaced circles, like a botanical truce dividing the desert into territories. Computer models support this, showing how simple competition can generate patterns eerily similar to Namibia's fairy circles. But why the near-perfect symmetry, and why do some circles suddenly vanish after rains, only to reappear in droughts? The wildest theory points to subterranean gas vents, suggesting that toxic fumes, perhaps methane or carbon monoxide, seep from deep underground, poisoning vegetation in precise bursts. It's a tantalizing idea, especially since similar gas-related patterns have been found in other deserts. But conclusive proof remains elusive. No one has yet detected consistent gas emissions beneath the circles. What truly bends the mind, though, is how these patterns echo phenomena beyond Earth. Satellite images of Mars reveal similar circular formations in its deserts, sparking speculation about shared geological or even biological processes. Could the same forces shaping Namibia's fairy circles, whether termites, plants, or gases, also sculpt the red planet's surface? The comparison isn't just poetic, it's a scientific goldmine, offering clues about how life, or its absence, might leave fingerprints on alien worlds. Standing in the Namib at dusk, when the low sun casts long shadows across the circles, they seem almost alive, breathing, shifting, resisting human understanding. Maybe that's their magic. They're not just ecological quirks, they're a riddle written in sand, reminding us that even in the emptiest places, nature thrives on mystery. Whether carved by jaws, roots, or subterranean whispers, the fairy circles challenge us to keep questioning, to keep looking closer. Because sometimes the desert's greatest treasures aren't gold or lost cities, but the puzzles it leaves lying in plain sight. Somewhere in the vast, unmapped reaches of the Sahara's Libyan desert, whispers of a paradise tormented explorers for centuries, a hidden oasis called Zazura, where crumbling white walls guarded palm-shaded springs and treasures beyond imagination. The legend burned brightest in the early 20th century, when European adventurers, armed with little more than camel skin maps and Bedouin folktales, vanished into the dunes chasing this mirage of a lost city. Their obsession wasn't just about gold or glory, it was about conquering the last blank spaces on the map where reality blurred with myth. The stories varied wildly. An ancient Arabic manuscript spoke of a white bird guiding travelers to Zazura's gates, where sleeping warriors guarded hoards of jewels. Bedouin tribes described an abandoned settlement with eyes like stars carved above its doors, its gardens long swallowed by sand. Hungarian Count Laszlo Olmosy, the real-life inspiration for the English patient, became fixated after hearing of a pilot who'd glimpsed ruins from the air. In 1932, Olmosy led a motorized expedition across the Gilf-Kebir Plateau, following cryptic petroglyphs of giraffes and boats, proof, he argued, that the Sahara had once been lush enough to sustain such a haven. His team found caves adorned with Neolithic art but no white city, only the desert's endless, mocking expanse. Yet Zazura's allure persisted because its bones might be real. Satellite imagery later revealed the Gilf-Kebir's hidden wadis, dry river valleys where water once flowed. One, known as Wadi Sara, held the Cave of Swimmers with its ancient paintings of figures mid-stroke, suggesting memories of a greener past. Nearby, the ruins of a Roman-era outpost called Casa al-Farafra hinted at settlements that thrived before the desert reclaimed them. Could Zazura have been a composite of these places, its legend growing with each retelling? The cruel irony is that those who searched hardest often missed the truth. In 2010, archaeologists exploring the Gilf-Kebirs ravines stumbled upon something unexpected: not a city, but a sprawling network of stone tools and hearths dating back 10,000 years, when monsoon rains turned the Sahara into a savanna. Zerzura's real treasure wasn't gold, it was the revelation that this wasteland once teemed with life, its oases hosting communities now erased by time. The lost city might have been a mirage, but the human stories behind it, the thirst for discovery, the refusal to believe the desert empty, were painfully real. Modern explorers still debate Zerzura's coordinates, but perhaps its power was never about being found. Like Atlantis or El Dorado, it served as a compass pointing not to a place but to the limits of human knowledge. Every expedition that vanished into the dunes, every map scribbled with "Here there be dragons," was a testament to our need for mystery, for the idea that somewhere just beyond the next dune, the unknown still waits. And in a world where satellites have mapped every inch of the planet, that's the most precious treasure of all. High above the desert floor in Arizona's Verde Valley, clinging to a sheer limestone cliff like a wasp's nest, sits one of America's most astonishing ancient structures, Montezuma Castle. This 5-story, 20-room fortress isn't just a marvel of engineering. It's a testament to the ingenuity of the Sinagua people, a culture that thrived in this harsh landscape for centuries before vanishing into mystery around 1400 CE. Built not by the Aztecs, as early settlers mistakenly believed, but by the Sinagua, whose name means "without water" in Spanish, the castle and its neighboring dwellings reveal a civilization that turned scarcity into strength. Step inside the shade of the cliff's overhang, and you'll notice the architecture's brilliance. The Sinagua didn't just stack stones, they engineered for survival. Walls made of limestone blocks and clay mortar insulated against desert extremes, keeping interiors cool in summer and warm in winter. T-shaped doorways minimized heat loss while allowing easy movement. Ladders made from ponderosa pine, hauled from mountains miles away, could be pulled up for defense, turning the cliff face into a natural fortress. But the real genius lay outside, a sprawling network of irrigation canals, some stretching over 10 miles, diverting water from Beaver Creek to terraced fields below. In a land where rain was rarer than gold, the Sinagua mastered hydraulic engineering centuries before modern cities would. The artifacts left behind paint a vibrant picture of daily life. Pottery shards reveal designs echoing Hopi and Zuni traditions, hinting at trade networks spanning hundreds of miles. Shells from the Gulf of California and macaw feathers from Mexico suggest connections far beyond the desert. Yet the most haunting clues are the ones that weren't left: no signs of war, no mass graves. Around 1400 CE, the Sinagua simply walked away, leaving homes stocked with supplies as if planning to return. Why? Climate scientists studying tree rings point to a prolonged drought in the 1300s, a dry spell so severe it crippled even the Sinagua's sophisticated water systems. Others argue resource depletion over centuries. The land may have been pushed past its limits. Then there are the oral histories of Hopi and Yavapai peoples who speak of migrations spurred by spiritual calling, not catastrophe. Perhaps the answer lies in all three: an environmental tipping point woven with cultural shifts that made staying impossible and movement necessary. Today, Montezuma Castle stands as a silent teacher. Its empty rooms whisper lessons about adaptation, how a people with no written language engineered solutions to desert living that still astonish. Its abandonment reminds us that collapse isn't always violent. Sometimes it's a quiet gathering of belongings and a step into the unknown. And for modern visitors gazing up at those cliffside walls, the real treasure isn't the castle itself, but the unanswerable question it leaves hanging in the dry desert air: what would we have done differently? The Sinagua story isn't just history, it's a mirror. Some of the world's driest deserts hold a secret that sounds like pure magic: dunes that sing. In the heart of the Sahara or the vast stretches of the Gobi, when conditions are just right, the sand itself erupts into deep, resonant booms that can carry for miles. These eerie, singing sands don't whisper, they roar, vibrating at frequencies so low they feel more like earthquakes than sound. Marco Polo once blamed the phenomenon on desert spirits, while ancient Bedouin tales spoke of cursed valleys where the ground howled to warn travelers away. But the truth is even stranger than folklore. It's a breathtaking dance of physics and friction, where billions of sand grains become an instrument played by the wind. The key lies in the sand's perfect harmony of size, shape, and dryness. Not all dunes sing, only those with grains meticulously sorted by wind into near-identical spheres, each about 1/10 to half a millimeter wide. When these grains cascade down a dune's steep slope, they create a synchronized avalanche sliding in a thin, vibrating layer. As they tumble, the grains rub against each other at the same frequency, generating sound waves that amplify through the dune like a giant subwoofer. The result, a monotone hum, usually between 60 and 100 Hz, low enough to rattle your ribs. The steepness of the slope matters too. Angles between 30 and 35 degrees produce the clearest notes, turning entire dunes into nature's own synthesizers. But humidity is the silent killer of these desert songs. Even a tiny amount of moisture, less than 1%, coats the sand grains with a microscopic film, damping their vibrations. That's why singing sands often fall silent after rain or during humid nights, only to wake again under the desert's scorching midday sun. Scientists studying the phenomenon have recreated it in labs, pouring dry sand down tilted trays to trigger artificial booms. Yet the full picture still eludes us. Some dunes sing while nearly identical neighbors stay mute, suggesting hidden variables like mineral content or packing density play a role. The most haunting examples defy simple explanation. At Morocco's Urg Chebi Dunes, the sound resembles a distant propeller plane, while China's Mingsha Shan echoes with what locals call the singing rain, a cascading melody of descending tones. In Chile's Atacama, dunes produce a metallic screech like fingers on a chalkboard amplified 1,000-fold. Then there's the mystery of walking sands, rare instances where simply stepping on a patch of desert triggers a localized hum, as if the ground itself is talking back. What's most humbling is how these sounds bridge human cultures. Tibetan monks considered singing sands sacred, vibrations from enlightened beings. Tuareg caravans used the booms as natural foghorns to navigate sandstorms. Modern geologists, meanwhile, listen for changes in frequency, clues about shifting dune stability, or even early warnings of collapse. The desert song isn't just a curiosity, it's a language we're still learning to decode, one grain of sand at a time. In the vast, sun-scorched expanse of Egypt's Nubian desert, where the horizon shimmers like a mirage, lies a puzzle carved in stone, one that predates the pyramids by millennia and rivals Stonehenge in its celestial precision. This is Nabta Playa, a 7,000-year-old stone circle built by a cattle-worshipping culture so advanced they etched the movements of the cosmos into the barren earth. At first glance, the site seems unremarkable, a scattering of weathered slabs, some no larger than a coffee table. But arrange yourself at its center during the summer solstice, and the stones align with the rising sun, casting long shadows that point like arrows to distant stars. This wasn't just a calendar, it was a sacred map, a bridge between the earth and the heavens. The builders of Nabta Playa were no ordinary desert dwellers. Archaeologists call them the cattle people, nomadic herders who followed the rains across what was then a savanna dotted with seasonal lakes. Their survival depended on tracking water, and in doing so, they became keen observers of the sky. The stone circle, with its sight lines to Sirius and Orion's belt, likely marked the arrival of monsoon rains, signaling when to move their herds, but the sophistication goes deeper. One slab, now called the calendar stone, bears carved lines that may represent a star chart, while another aligns with the Milky Way's brightest band. These weren't just farmers marking seasons, they were early astronomers mapping the heavens with a precision that wouldn't be matched for thousands of years. What's even more astonishing is what they left behind beneath the sand. Excavations around Nabta Playa revealed buried megaliths, some weighing several tons, arranged in complex patterns resembling cattle enclosures. Then came the cow bones, hundreds of them, carefully placed in ritual burials, their horns polished by centuries of veneration. For the cattle people, cows weren't just livestock, they were sacred, possibly even seen as intermediaries between worlds. One burial site held the remains of a young bull adorned with ochre and beads, its skull facing the rising sun, a sacrifice to gods we can only guess at. The mystery thickens when you consider Nabta Playa's influence. The site was abandoned around 4800 BCE as the desert reclaimed the land. But its legacy may have traveled north. Some scholars argue the cattle people's astronomical knowledge seeped into early Egyptian cosmology, shaping the alignment of temples and the worship of sky gods like Hathor, often depicted as a cow. Even the Egyptian hieroglyph for year apom, frond with a notch, echoes Nabta Playa's calendar stones, as if the memory of this desert observatory lingered in the symbols of a rising civilization. Today, standing among these megaliths, you're left with a humbling thought. 7 millennia ago, with nothing but stone and sinew, people turned a windswept plain into a cosmic clock. They tracked stars long before telescopes, worshipped cattle as conduits to the divine, and then vanished, leaving only their stones to whisper across the ages. Nabta Playa doesn't just rewrite the timeline of astronomy, it reminds us that curiosity and wonder are as ancient as the desert itself, and that even in the harshest landscapes, humans will always look up. Stretching across the arid prairies of Washington state, where the dry winds sweep through grasses like whispers, lies one of geology's most perplexing riddles, the Mima Mounds. These mysterious, dome-shaped hillocks rise from the earth in eerie uniformity, some as tall as 6 feet, others barely knee-high, but all spaced with almost mathematical precision. From above, the landscape resembles the skin of some colossal creature, pockmarked with thousands of symmetrical bumps. Scientists have scratched their heads for over a century, debating how such perfection could emerge from chaotic nature. The theories are as varied as they are fascinating, each one a testament to the enduring puzzle of our planet's hidden logic. One of the most enduring explanations points to the humble pocket gopher, a creature barely larger than your hand, but with the potential to reshape entire landscapes. The idea goes like this. Over centuries, generations of gophers pushing soil upward as they dig their burrows could gradually build these mounds. Proponents of this theory point to the animal's relentless tunneling habits and the way loose, gravelly soil in the region might allow small disturbances to accumulate into larger formations. There's even a charming symmetry to the concept, tiny creatures working in isolation yet collectively creating order, but skeptics raise valid questions. Why are the mounds so uniform in size and spacing? Why do they appear in some regions but not others with similar gopher populations? And most puzzling of all, why do identical mounds exist as far away as Africa and South America, where entirely different species roam? Then there's the seismic theory, which suggests these mounds are the scars of ancient earthquakes. In this scenario, vibrations from long-forgotten tremors could have caused the soil to bunch up like a rug shaken on the floor. Experiments with vibrating trays of loose sediment have shown similar patterns emerging, lending some credibility to the idea. But critics argue that the mound's precise spacing and the lack of clear fault lines in some areas cast doubt on this explanation. Could random seismic activity really produce such uniformity? Perhaps the most poetic hypothesis ties the mounds to Ice Age mysteries. As glaciers retreated millennia ago, they left behind patches of frozen ground that later thawed unevenly, buckling the earth into these peculiar shapes. Similar patterned ground formations appear in Arctic regions, where freeze-thaw cycles sculpt the land into polygons and circles. But Washington's Mima Mounds sit far outside typical permafrost zones, leaving scientists to wonder if some localized climatic quirk might have mimicked those polar processes. What makes the Mima Mounds truly compelling, though, isn't just the uncertainty, it's their uncanny global doppelgangers. In the Kalahari Desert, nearly identical formations called fairy circles dot the landscape, sparking debates about termite activity or competing plants. In the pampas of Argentina, monticulos rise like echoes of Washington's mystery. How can such distant landscapes with entirely different ecologies produce such similar patterns? Some researchers now suspect a universal principle might be at work. Something about soil composition, water drainage, or even the way vegetation interacts with erosion that nudges these systems toward order. Standing among the mounds at dusk, when the low sun stretches their shadows into elongated fingers, it's easy to feel like you're walking through a question mark carved into the earth. They resist easy answers, these grassy hummocks, and maybe that's their gift. In a world where we've mapped every corner and digitized every mystery, the Mima Mounds remind us that some puzzles aren't meant to be solved, just pondered with humility and wonder as the wind rustles through the grass above them. In the heart of Death Valley, where the heat shimmers like a living thing and the ground cracks with thirst, there exists a place where rocks sail across the desert floor without a single hand to push them. Richat Playa, a bone-dry lakebed as flat as a tabletop, is littered with stones that leave behind long, meandering trails, some straight as arrows, others curving like drunken snakes. For over a century, these sailing stones baffled scientists, taunting them with trails stretching hundreds of feet, as if the rocks had sprouted legs and wandered off in the night. Theories ranged from the plausible dust devils, hurricane-force winds to the absurd magnetic fields, alien pranksters, until a team of researchers turned the playa into a real-life laboratory and caught the stones in the act. The breakthrough came in 2014, when scientists armed with time-lapse cameras and GPS trackers witnessed the impossible. Under rare conditions, when winter rains pool just deep enough to freeze overnight, paper-thin sheets of ice form around the rocks. As the sun rises, the ice begins to fracture into floating panels, and gusts of wind, some as gentle as 10 miles per hour, nudge these ice-rafted stones across the slick mud. The movement is achingly slow, no faster than a crawling baby, but over hours, the rocks etch their indelible signatures into the playa's surface. Some pivot like ballet dancers, leaving looping scars, others slide in eerie unison, as if choreographed by unseen forces. Yet, even with this revelation, mysteries linger. Why do some stones trek half a mile while others barely budge? Why do trails sometimes zigzag abruptly, as if the stones changed their minds mid-journey? And most puzzling of all, why did the phenomenon nearly vanish for a decade after 2014, defying predictions? Some researchers suspect micro-variations in the playa's clay composition create sweet spots where ice grips better, while others argue secret underground springs might lubricate certain paths. Then there's the haunting beauty of the trails themselves, transient artworks that fade with each summer's heat, only to be redrawn by winter's invisible hand. Standing on Richat Playa at dawn, when the stone's shadows stretch long and the air hums with silence, you realize this isn't just a geology lesson. It's a meditation on patience, a reminder that nature's most astonishing performances often unfold offstage, in moments too fleeting for human eyes. The desert guards its secrets jealously, doling them out one clue at a time. And as the next winter's ice forms somewhere out there, a stone prepares to sail again, leaving behind fresh riddles in the mud. Beneath the shimmering, polluted waters of California's Salton Sea lies a forgotten world, a graveyard of drowned settlements that rise like ghosts when the lake recedes. This accidental body of water, born from an engineering disaster in 1905, has been swallowing towns for over a century, only to spit them back out during droughts, offering fleeting glimpses of lives interrupted. What was once a desert valley dotted with indigenous Cahuilla villages and later mid-century playgrounds for Hollywood's elite is now a surreal landscape where fish bones crunch underfoot and the skeletons of resorts emerge from the brine-like warnings from the past. The Cahuilla people knew this land long before it flooded. For centuries, they thrived in the Sonoran Desert's harsh embrace, building seasonal villages near natural artesian springs. Their intricate irrigation canals, some still visible when the water drops, funneled precious moisture to fields of maize, beans, and squash. But the real treasure was the salt harvested from dry lake beds and traded across the region, giving the area its name, the Salton Sink. Then, in 1905, a catastrophic breach in an irrigation canal sent the Colorado River roaring into the basin for 18 months, creating the Salton Sea overnight. The Cahuilla watched as their ancestral lands vanished beneath the flood, their story rewritten by the whims of industrial ambition. By the 1950s, the sea had transformed into an unlikely paradise. Developers, smelling opportunity in the desert sun, built yacht clubs, motels, and trailer parks along its shores. Celebrities like Frank Sinatra and the Beach Boys flocked to its waters, water skiing through waves stocked with tropical fish. Bombay Beach became a bustling resort town, its neon signs reflecting off the water at night. But the dream was built on borrowed time. With no outlet, the sea grew saltier each year, its waters stewing with agricultural runoff. Fish died by the millions, their rotting carcasses piling up on beaches that now reeked of decay. By the 1980s, the resorts stood empty, their stilted cabins slowly sinking into the toxic muck. Today, the sea is a haunting time capsule. During severe droughts, the water retreats, exposing the ruins of both ancient and modern worlds. Cahuilla grinding stones resurface near the rusted husks of Chevrolets half buried in silt. The bones of tilapia form strange dunes, while the crumbling foundations of motels display faded advertisements for cocktails that haven't been poured in 50 years. Even the lakebed itself tells a story, layers of pesticide-laced sediment alternating with strands of indigenous pottery, a stark record of competing visions for this land. The Salton Sea's submerged villages are more than curiosities. They're cautionary tales about humanity's fraught relationship with water in the West. As climate change accelerates the cycle of drought and flood, the sea's corpse continues to twitch, its toxic dust storms poisoning nearby communities. Yet amid the ruin, there's resilience. The Cahuilla still return when the waters recede, gathering salt as their ancestors did, while artists transform Bombay Beach's wreckage into an open-air gallery, finding beauty in the broken. The desert, it seems, always has the last word, burying our mistakes, then patiently waiting for us to unearth their lessons. From the lost cities buried beneath the sand to the cosmic scars etched into barren earth, these 30 discoveries prove that deserts are far more than empty wastelands. They're the world's greatest storytellers. Think about it, the same harsh conditions that make these landscapes so unforgiving are what preserve their secrets so perfectly. The scorching sun that drives life away also slows decay to a crawl. The shifting sands that erase footprints entomb entire civilizations like time capsules. Even the droughts that starve the land create natural mummification, leaving behind faces so lifelike they seem to whisper across millennia. Each discovery we've explored reveals a different facet of this paradox. The Dead Sea Scrolls survived 2,000 years in desert caves because the arid air prevented the ink from fading. The Nazca Lines defied erosion thanks to the Atacama's rainless skies. The Tarim mummies' European features remained recognizable for 30 centuries because the dry, salty soil arrested decomposition. Even temporary features like racetrack Playa's sailing stones rely on the desert's extremes, just a thin layer of ice and a nudge of wind to carve mysteries into the earth. It's as if the desert itself is a meticulous archivist, preserving fragments of our past with ruthless efficiency. But what truly unites these wonders is the human ingenuity they reveal. The Nabateans turning cliffs into cities at Petra, the Sinagua engineering irrigation canals in Arizona's arid heart, the cattle people of Nabta Playa mapping the stars with nothing but stone and patience. These weren't just survival stories, they were triumphs of imagination, proof that necessity births brilliance in the harshest places. And let's not forget the modern adventurers who unearthed these secrets, from Howard Carter stubbornly digging for Tutankhamun to the librarians who smuggled Timbuktu's manuscripts past militants. The desert may preserve, but it's human curiosity that brings these stories back to light. Now it's your turn. Which of these discoveries haunted your imagination the most? Was it the haunting cave of swimmers, proof of a green Sahara lost to time? Or perhaps the Richat Structure, teasing us with its Atlantean echoes? Share your favorites in the comments, and if you're ever lucky enough to visit these sites, tread lightly. Many, like the Nazca Lines or Wadi Rum's petroglyphs, are fragile legacies that demand our respect. As we close this journey, remember, the next time you see a desert, don't just see emptiness, see a library, a gallery, a stage where Earth and humanity have performed their most astonishing acts. And if you're hungry for more adventures where history and mystery collide, hit that subscribe button because the past has countless more stories to tell, and we're just getting started. Until then, keep wondering, keep exploring, and never stop listening to the whispers in the sand.